Prepare yourselves for one of the most twisted stories in the annals of true crime. Tonight on Deep Fat Fried, the Toy Box Killer! Can you survive?
Bravo.
TJ, you are truly a thespian.
Yes. Like I said, TJ's a red light performer, man.
There you go, man.
Like
Lights,
Palin,
camera,
man.
shit.
He ain't wear the shit like in the but like as soon as you push him out on stage, he fucking runs it.
There you go. This is a weird. This episode, I started off thinking I was doing episode research on a serial killer, and I'm really not so sure by the end of it if that's actually what happened.
What? Wait a minute. It's not he's not a serial killer?
Yeah, so it's
mean, he might be, maybe even he probably is, but he's not for sure. Like, okay, I mean, you'll see as it goes along.
I mean, yeah, but you can say that not for sure about a lot of people and a lot of things. So,
Well, I mean, with most serial killers, it's pretty fucking like, there's bodies and stuff like that, and I don't know.
then how's this guy? Okay, you have to explain this whole fucking case.
Well, I guess I'm going to.
I hope so.
All right, I'm going to put on my true crime voice. 7 miles north of Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, in the small town of Elephant Butte, there lived a fellow called David Parker Ray.
Elephant butt.
I knew you were going to do that. I knew it.
He lived in Elephant Butt, Montana.
That's all I heard, dude.
No wonder he went crazy. He was living on an elephant's butt. Like most of us, David was a person with many identity hats. He wore the hat of soldier, father, husband, mechanic. But none of those are why we're talking about.
Tinker, Tailor,
soldier,
spy.
He also wore the hat of rapist, torturer, probably killer, though he was never convicted of murder. He is strongly suspected of it.
So it's one of those cases.
Is he still? He's still among us. He still walks among us.
I never said that.
Yeah, you
Probably,
did.
yeah, that's probably how he avoided justice, Paul. He probably fucking kicked the bucket, and it's like, well, what can you do? He's dead.
Well, I just said he was never convicted of murder. That's all I said.
We're speculating, T. We're speculating.
Next image, please.
Next slide.
Next slide.
Oh, next slide,
Next slide.
please. Sorry.
Next slide.
I had the wrong thing selected here. My bad.
all
There
good.
we go. All right, we're good.
They called him the Toy Box Killer. And this is what you're looking at. You're looking at his toy box.
It's a trailer.
It is it's a
Something
truck trailer.
tells me that it is not filled with PlayStation 2 games and a comfy couch.
I bet you it is.
You're probably right about that. It's a simple 22-foot truck trailer, unassuming and beneath most people's notice. Like, you could drive right past this thing and not give it a second glance, right? You're not going to fucking care that this thing is there.
I mean, yeah, I definitely wouldn't think that, like, oh my God, it's some kind of hideous torture device built by a probable serial killer or whatever. I probably wouldn't think that. It's very unassuming looking. Let's put it that way. It looks
so in
like
reality,
it looks like something corporate. You know what I mean? Like it's like it's a truck that's waiting for new branding to be put on the side or whatever the fuck. It just doesn't.
Or like, I mean, maybe like at most like a temporary job site, because I see a window unit coming out of the back of it.
Yeah,
That's the only thing that actually
like
distinguishes
like a foreman's office or some shit.
yeah,
on
you
a
can see
job
there's
site.
a door and a stairway. So obviously, someone is using this for some purpose other than it's a truck trailer.
Right.
But you still probably wouldn't. You probably just think like, oh, it's like
Yeah.
someone's living there because it's like a cheap place to live.
some shit. Yeah.
In reality, this is a $100,000 soundproof dungeon filled to the brim with the tools of David's dark trade.
What?
Well, it's his dark trade.
Check it out. Next slide.
Whoa.
Whips, chains, pulleys, clamps, restraints, spreaders, surgical blades, saws, syringes, sex toys, all kinds of crazy
Sex
shit.
Toys.
Toys. Andy Dick was there a few times. You know, he's like, "Wow, this place is great."
And Nick's one of the people that probably walk away and just tell the tale. The guy was probably just like, nah, I don't want this one on me.
I met this really great guy, David Parker Ray.
An elephant butt.
Met him at Elephant Butt, and he stretched my butt out like an elephant. I'll tell you that. There's a mirror mounted on the ceiling above this gynecologist type table upon which he would strap his victims. Ray would also put his victims in wooden contraptions that bent them over and immobilized them, while he had his friends or his accomplice wife torture and rape them.
So this is like some weird like fucking Sweeney Todd barber chair that like straps people in and fucking puts them in compromising positions and shit.
He can manipulate it to like put you in several different positions that he wants you in. He also had like electrodes and shit that he could use to shock you.
But all allegedly, according to you. Because
well, no, most of this stuff is like pretty confirmed.
This is confirmed.
I mean, like this.
Okay, so this is all. So this is 100%. This guy owned this thing.
Well, I mean, there's even some sort. I mean, you'll see. You know.
Okay.
All right,
So I mean, just
all
it's
right.
kind of crazy that like if he's the registered owner of all this shit, that's nuts.
No, he knows. This was all on his property.
Yeah. So I mean,
So before we get too deep into like that was your little opening fucking taste of like what this guy done.
Oh, I'm
Now
tantalized.
let's fucking back it up.
all right. Did he hit
Back
his head?
it up.
Did he hit his head, TJ?
No, he never hit his
You're
head.
pulling a
Actually,
Tarantino on us, dude. You're showing us
Actually
what
looked-
happened, and then you're showing us how it happened, TJ. How you do that, man?
it's called story structure, Paul.
Nick
Whoa.
of time
Crazy.
type of shit with Johnny Depp. What you're doing is TJ.
Showed you the end, but now we're going back to the fucking beginning. This is David Parker Ray. Scotty, the hitting the head question is actually one of the things, I'm sure you probably know this, that they look for in like when they're studying serial killers. The whole like criminology, criminal profile thing. One of the things is head trauma as a child.
Because it's so common.
Well, he might have head trauma because he was abused. His early life was fraught with abuse and abandonment. He was abandoned by his mother and his abusive alcoholic father, but not until his father beat him a few times. David was then raised by his fundamentalist Christian grandparents, who also subjected him to beatings and abuse at the smallest indiscretion. Those who knew him as a schoolboy say he was very shy and reserved, especially with girls, closed off to others, and the victim of bullying at school.
Shocking.
So, according to some, Ray's first victim may have been a girl that he abducted at knife point, tied to a tree, and tortured to death when he was a young teenager. But there's not really many details. There's not any details about this story. There's no identity placed to this person. So, like, this could just be
A tall tale.
him being like, "Oh yeah, then I killed her," but he never fucking did it.
Well, is it according to him? Did this come out of him?
It
Or
is.
is this?
I mean, so the reason that this is believed is because when he was a young man, he would go around telling people that he did this, like bragging about it, like, "Yeah, I tortured this girl, I tied her to this tree, and I tortured her, and I killed her, and all this," you know.
Right.
And so people were like, later on when he got caught being a serial killer, they're like, yeah, he did tell me that he did this thing. We didn't believe him at the time, but now
we believe. Yeah.
So, this is David Parker Ray's daughter, Glenda Jean Ray, but she went by Jessie Ray. She adored her father growing up, though she rarely saw him since he was a mechanic that took jobs all over the state. Didn't really have steady employment. He would just kind of go where the work was. He did little to hide his sadistic sexual fascinations from his daughter, who by the time she reached the age of 19 had turned on him and actually called the FBI to report some of the activities that he was, allegedly up to.
I mean, that's not shocking. Like, why? Like, what would make? I guess he'd probably pretty warped to have no sense that somebody that was close to him would not want to be involved in his weirdness.
Yeah, more than likely not.
Oh well, one of the things you'll learn as this story unfolds is that the Toy Box Killer is really not one person. David Parker Ray is at the top of the food chain, but there's lots of other people that were tangentially involved. And, his daughter, and she has a bigger part to play in this story than you might think.
You got something else on your mind, TJ? You mentioned my name.
So she told the FBI that she had witnessed her father torture a prostitute so severely that the woman ran naked and screaming into the night in sheer terror. She also told him her father routinely abducted women, tortured and raped them until he was bored with them, and then sold them to sexual slavery in Mexico. This was all before the toy box was even built, by the way. So this is like pre-toy box.
This is
years.
That's like the prelude to that. That's like his little warm up. Is like, yeah, I just beat and rape you, then I'll let you go.
Well, according to his daughter, beat and raped him and then fucking sold him off to sexual slavery in Mexico somewhere.
That's crazy.
I mean, when was, here's the fucking rub to that. When were these tales told? Like, she just called in. I mean, does she have a grudge against her dad? I mean, like, and I'm not saying, obviously, there's reasonable suspicion around this guy, obviously. I'm just saying, but like, maybe that happened, but maybe it's being sensationalized for benefit, is what I'm saying. So it just depends on when the tale was told.
Well,
and the circumstances behind it.
Far from hiding his nature, the then 46-year-old Ray proudly flaunted his BDSM lifestyle to the FBI, telling them that it was difficult for him to even ejaculate unless he was thinking about murder. Obviously, they were deeply concerned about those kind of interviews, but after a lengthy investigation, they couldn't find anything concrete on him. They could not identify a single victim. They could not pin a single crime on him.
They couldn't find anything concrete except his dick when he was talking about BDSM.
Murder. Dude, what if, dude, he made this persona up, dude? Maybe he didn't actually have the balls to kill anybody. So he just had to, like, invent, like, I was a serial killer. Well, I mean, the FBI invested. I mean, if you're saying they have nothing, I mean, unless you got some more solid in this episode, I'm going to say this guy, I mean, he's got...
Well, like I said, this is before the toy box stuff even begins, Scotty.
Okay.
This is just warm-up.
Well, see, because you fucking fucked with me, TJ. You're not giving me a fucking timeline that makes sense. We're going all over the place. We're going to the fucking future. We're going to the past. I mean, what is the fucking Toy Box Killer doing in 2099, TJ? I don't even fucking know.
All right, well, this is his daughter, Jessie.
In 20XX, Mega City was under attack. Only one man couldn't save it. Are you the Mega Man?
So Jessie never cooperated with law enforcement again. It seems that somehow the events of this investigation actually brought David and his daughter Jessie closer together.
Man, crazy likes crazy, huh?
According to some speculation, it brought them really close together, if you know what I'm saying.
No.
What do you mean? Like they were like
incestuous?
Like what do you mean? Like they had like a weekly spa date or something. Like they
well, a few years later, Jessie gave birth to a child, and it's believed by some, speculated that David might be the father of his daughter.
Why has that got to be speculation?
Yeah, who's speculating for what? I mean,
why can't they just scoop some
crazy
DNA?
Accusation?
Just wait till the kid's fucking walking around and she throws away a Starbucks cup that it touched or something. And get that shit DNA. You'll know. They'll be able to tell your ass after they look at that DNA. They'll be able to know.
See, if they were in Alabama, it'd be much easier to figure that one out. But unfortunately, I mean, where are they at? Arizona or Montana?
New Mexico.
What the fuck? Right. New Mexico. No wonder I blocked that state out of my mind.
I don't blame you.
So it was after the FBI investigation against him concluded and turned up nothing that David Parker Ray started to escalate his crimes, purchasing what he would convert into the toy box. Escape-proof, soundproof, reinforced frame, deadbolt lock. Pretty much inescapable. No sound can escape it. You can scream all you want in it. No one outside is going to hear a fucking thing.
Huh.
That's normal. Yeah, I like to build this trailer and make it soundproof. If it's like if you had a chainsaw and you were murdering someone here, people on the outside would be completely unaware. Why do you need that? I just want it. Just to have it.
I'd like to soundproof this. Me and my band are gonna like practice in here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, practice.
Don't want people to hear.
It's got to be mobile too. Mobile's very important.
I mean, it does look super innocuous, dude.
Right, like you could drive right on past this thing. There could be someone fucking getting murdered right inside. You never even know,
Dude, it looks like a thing that like maybe it's like a taco truck that's all like, when the guy comes to open for business, he lets out that side panel and like, goes in there and starts. It does. It looks like it might be like a taco truck or some shit.
Yeah, I mean,
something like tacos.
Something like this could easily be a
too.
food truck or something like that.
I want some Al Pastor, man.
Yeah, he's got murdering people in the back. It's like, look, I'm feeling like some carne asada. Come on, hurry up with that.
So this is the camera that he set up to it's not only to record his activities, which there were tons of different tapes.
Wait a minute, there's tapes now.
Yeah, there's tapes
of him torturing people.
Yes.
Oh.
But so how was he not convicted?
He wasn't convicted of murder.
Was he charged with murder ever?
No.
Okay.
I'm getting there. There was also a monitor that was positioned so that his victims could see what was happening to them in real time.
Oh, that's fucked up, dude.
He liked to escalate them to the pinnacle, not only of pain, but of terror as well. Like he wanted them. Yeah, he wanted them to see what he was doing to them. That's why there's mirrors on the ceiling.
Your suffering shall
He
be
had
legendary. Please! Like, look.
Yeah, he had some pink champagne on ice, and
Champagne on ice? That's
I was
Dude,
thinking
the
of
toy box, the pinnacle of pain and terror and pleasure, dude. He's Pinhead.
Well, I mean, there was a strong BDSM vibe to those movies, right?
For sure, yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
I mean, there's not much. Yes, oh, yes. Let's take the flesh from another.
I show you the delights of hell.
Pain is pleasure, TJ.
Pleasure is pain. Pain is pleasure. Let's see if it's the right one.
David P. Ray.
Damn it, sucks.
He lives at 513 Ass Road.
It's 513 Bass Drive or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, like I said, Ass Road.
Elephant.
Sorry, I
butt.
lost the fuck.
He moved from Ass Road to Elephant Butt, dude. He lived on Ass Road in Elephant Butt, New Mexico.
Yeah, no wonder he was fucking crazy.
What a dumb piece of shit, dude. Literally. Like, he's in an elephant butt, dude. He's a total elephant piece of elephant shit. I bet everybody that lives in Elephant Butt, New Mexico is some kind of deviant fuck like this, dude. That's how he went unreported for so long.
I can tell you a little bit about the town if you want to know it. I didn't put it in my research, but I do remember it.
Yeah, I would like to know.
Sure. Yeah, what's Elephant
super
Butt
small,
like?
I'm assuming.
Elephant Butt is a small town of about 1,000 people. It's mostly retirees. It's a bunch of old people with, like who were retired that couldn't fucking retire anywhere better than Elephant Butt. It's about 7 miles north of Truth or Consequences, New Mexico.
It's also tiny, pretty much.
Which is not really a big town either.
It's like 10,000 people or some shit.
Yeah, and it was a quiet town. And by the way, David's reputation in the town was of being a very kind and gentle man who loved animals and was actually like involved in animal rescues and stuff like that.
Like, stop traffic! There's a little baby tortoise crossing the road. Oh, that's David. Always thinking about those little animals.
Yeah,
meanwhile, in the toy box.
He actually had a reputation around town of not just being like an okay, like he wasn't like standoffish or like a recluse or anything. Like they thought of him as like a real nice, like friendly, soft-hearted guy.
Probably got away with it, dude. He probably did all this nice shit. They're like, yes, does he have a torture shed or something? Yeah, he's got a torture trailer, but I mean, come on. He's a real nice guy.
So his methodology was pretty much always the same. He would abduct a victim from a bar or from the streets, oftentimes prostitutes. He would blindfold them, drug them, bring them the toy box. They would awaken strapped to the nightmarish chair that we looked at a bit earlier, and he would then play a 45-minute orientation tape explaining to them what was happening.
Well, that's I guess.
I guess he got tired of explaining the rules to the victims, so he actually recorded a special tape.
That's so that's insane. Yeah, So he's insane.
Welcome to orientation, and you're
he's
tortured.
Officially insane now. The toy box thing was a little weird, but some people are into some hard ass BDSM shit. Maybe he was going to conventions. I don't want to prejudge, dude. You know what I mean?
What's the guy's name, TJ?
David Parker Ray.
Hi, I'm David Parker Ray.
Why do they always have three names?
Because everyone says their full name.
I'm David Parker Ray. Welcome to the Torture Shack. So
you may be wondering, why are you here?
Well, listen, I'm going to read you some of it. So I'm going to read you. It's 45 minutes. Like I said, I'm not going to read 45 minutes of shit, but I will read you the first 4 paragraphs so you get an idea of the tone and tenor of the tape. And transcripts are available all over the internet. There's actually some excerpts of the actual audio floating around. And I think Netflix is actually doing a special on this guy or has already done it or is doing it soon or whatever the fuck, that they have some like new excerpts from it in there. Anyway, so here it is. Hello there, bitch. Are you comfortable right now? I doubt it. Wrists and ankles chained, gagged, probably blindfolded. You are disoriented and scared, too, I would imagine. Perfectly normal under the circumstances. For a while, at least, you need to get your shit together and listen to this tape. It's very relevant to your situation. I'm going to tell you in detail why you have been kidnapped, what's going to happen to you, and how long you'll be here. I don't know the details of your capture because this tape is being created on July 23rd, 1993, as a general advisory tape for future female captives. The information I'm going to give you is based on my experience dealing with captives over a period of several years. If at a future date there are any major changes in our procedure, the tape will be upgraded.
How kind.
Now, you are obviously here against your will, totally helpless, don't know where you're at, don't know what's going to happen to you. You're very scared or very pissed off. I'm sure that you've already tried to get out of your wrists and ankles loose. You know you can't. Now you're just waiting to see what's going to happen next. You probably think you're going to be raped, and you're fucking sure right about that. Our primary interest is what you've got between your legs. You'll be raped thoroughly and repeatedly in every hole you've got. Because basically, you've been snatched and brought here for us to train and use as a sex slave. Sound kind of far out? Well, I suppose it is for the uninitiated, but we do it all the time. And it goes on to explain all the rules of being in the toy box, of being a captive in the toy box, how you're to address any of your male or female visitors in the toy box as master.
Dude, what if fucking elephant butt, dude, is for just a bunch of rapists and murderers just set up shop, dude?
Yeah, and they just decided to pin it all on fucking
and every
David Ray Parker when the heat was fucking on.
The heat was on. It's like David Ray keels over. He was all David Ray. He did it all.
So, at the conclusion of their captivity, it's unclear what fate the women suffered. According to journal entries written by David Parker Ray, some of them were murdered, but no murder victim has ever been identified. So it's unclear whether this actually took place. Perhaps Ray still maintained his alleged Mexican connections and sold his victims off as sex slaves to paying clients across the border. But according to his orientation tapes, and I'm going to read from his tape again, this is more towards the end of the tape. After we get completely through with you, you're going to be drugged up real heavy with a combination of sodium pentothal and phenobarbital. They are both hypnotic drugs that will make you extremely susceptible to hypnosis, auto-hypnosis, and hypnotic suggestion. You're going to be kept drugged a couple of days while I play with your mind. By the time I get through brainwashing you, you're not going to remember a fucking thing about this little adventure. You won't remember this place, us, or what has happened to you. There won't be any DNA evidence because you'll be bathed and both holes between your legs will be thoroughly flushed out. You'll be dressed, sedated, and turned loose on some country road, bruised, sore all over, but nothing that won't heal in a week or two. The thought of being brainwashed may not be appealing to you, but we've been doing it for a long time and it works. And it's the lesser of two evils. I'm sure that you would prefer that in lieu of being strangled or having your throat cut.
So, as silly as this sounds, like if they never found a murder victim or identified one, maybe he was doing this shit. Maybe he was just like brainwashing people on phenobarbital or whatever.
The known victims, not of murder, but of rape and torture in this box, seem to fit the profile of that claim. So there's no way of knowing how many victims Ray had, but the FBI would later find hundreds of tapes in the trailer. Only one victim was identifiable, thanks to a blurry tattoo. It was later identified as belonging to this woman on the screen right now, Kelly Van Cleve. So Kelly made the unfortunate mistake. I think you can change the picture of being friends with a girl named Jessie Ray. You remember Jessie, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the daughter connection.
Yeah, so one night after a nasty fight with her husband, it was Jessie Ray that Kelly decided to confide in over a beer. Unfortunately for her, the beer was drugged. Jessie then brought the girl to her father as a present, and Kelly was taken to the toy box. So 3 days later, David Ray himself drove Kelly to her in-laws' house, telling them that he had found her wandering around, disoriented. They assumed she'd been off on a drug binge. They convinced their son to annul his marriage to her, and she was basically left confused, destitute, and with no memory of where she had been.
So he was actually doing it. He was actually like brainwashing people and just dumping them on a road.
Yeah, and so in this instance, kind of a weird thing about, like, he personally involved himself in bringing her back to the in-laws, which seems like kind of against what you'd want to do if you're doing this kind of activity, right?
But then it almost seems like good then in a way. Like if people are looking at
it's the ultimate cover too. If
I brought her back.
Yeah, you have somebody that's a drug addict or whatever that's known to go on binges or whatever, and you just bring them back all completely confused and with no memory of what they're doing. And she just told me this address, and I was just trying to get her home. I just found her out here.
This is Marie Parker, who was most likely murdered in July of 1997. But she was not murdered by David Parker Ray.
Okay.
All right.
So why am I even talking about her? We'll see.
Yeah.
She was 22 years old. She was in financial distress. She was homeless. And she's a druggie. Shortly before she vanished, she dropped off her kids with a friend and went off to go score some drugs. And this is the dude who murdered her. His name is Roy Yancey.
Okay.
He used to be in the Navy. But after he served in the Navy, he returned to Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, and struck up a very close friendship with a woman by the name of Jessie Ray.
Shocking.
So when Marie Parker left to score drugs that night in 1997, it was Roy Yancey and Jessie Ray that she went to see. So there was a guy. This guy is kind of interesting. He was basically, as a teenager, he was like a Satanist, right?
Sure.
But then he fucking swore it all off and joined the Navy, got on the straight and narrow. And then after the Navy, he went back to his hometown and he hooks up with Jessie, who gets him way back into like Satanism and shit like that.
Sure.
And they probably murdered a drug dealer together. There was this guy who was he was a gay guy who was a drug dealer that was very flamboyant, very well known in the area, and they befriended him. And shortly after visiting him one time, he was basically, no one heard from him for like a few days, and they went in his house, and he's just dead. And he has like a doorknob shoved up his ass and like screws in his stomach. And the police are like, suicide.
What? Dude, Truth or Consequences ain't lying, dude. It ain't fucking lying, is it?
Yeah, the cops are just like, oh, this man committed suicide. He got he got metal poisoning.
Look,
All this metal.
He was fucking dead. Look, if a gay fairy falls out of the sky dead, it must have been by his own gay hand. It's like, all right, sure.
Dude shoved a doorknob up his own ass and 8 screws till he died.
It's like, what the fuck is going on?
The common method of suicide out here and truth or consequences,
So anyway, it was them that she went to, Roy Yancey here and Jesse, that Marie Parker went to go see when she wanted to score them drugs, because apparently they had
the hookup or whatever.
They had the hookup.
Yeah,
they got the stuff.
So Roy and Jesse brought the girl to the toy box, where Jesse and David used her for 3 days. Roy claims that he never went inside during this time, and the reason, by the way, that there was that she went to them was because Roy actually at one point had been her boyfriend.
Right. Okay.
Roy claims he never went inside during this time, during those 3 days, and a giant manhunt for whatever reason was organized by police when Marie went missing, probably because she had kids and stuff.
Well, here's why. Gay dude gets killed in fucking bumfuck New Mexico. Suicide. Mother was taken. Oh my God. Wait a minute. The media is going like, what happened? Oh, a manhunt. Oh, here's the guy. We found him.
So they were pretty fucking... David was pretty spooked by the fact that there was this high-profile manhunt.
Well, of course.
And according to Roy, David instructed Roy to kill Marie Parker, which Roy did by strangling her with a rope. He also claims that when he killed her, Jesse had a gun on him the whole time. You gotta kill her, I'll kill you,
Well, of course, that'd be permissible, right? It's like, I would have died otherwise. No, yeah. You know what it was? That's a demented fucking pair is what it sounds like to me. Like, the father and daughter are demented fucks, and they're like, you know what? How would take the heat off of us? Hey, man, you got to go kill her, You got to prove yourself to us. You were in the Navy, right? You got to go strangle her. She did it.
Well.
Oh, my God, he did it. He done it.
Jesse and Roy left town for about a year after this incident to, wait for the heat to die down. David stuck around. Nothing ever really came of it at the time. It was, later that it was, uncovered. But years later, when Roy took the police to where the body was buried, there was no corpse there. So the most common assumption is that David Parker Ray moved the body on his own later, perhaps not trusting his cohorts to keep the secret.
Right.
Well, probably. Yeah. I mean, he sounded like, he sounded like he was pretty meticulous with all this shit.
So you think that this would be, do you think the cast of fucked up characters is probably large enough now, right? Well,
I would imagine that it couldn't get much bigger.
I feel like we're watching a Netflix show at this point. So, I know they're making one of what actually happened or a documentary, but I feel like we're watching a fictional show.
So this is...
Oh, okay. Why not?
Cindy Hendy, a career criminal who came to Truth or Consequences to escape a rap in Washington, where she tried to sell cocaine to an undercover cop.
This is a fucking drama at this point.
So she started dating Jesse and Roy and David.
Hey, why not? Keep your options open.
Who introduced her to the local bondage scene, which she quickly fell in love with. They would go to S&M parties and all that shit together. Over time, Cindy became more and more enamored with David Ray, becoming basically the perfect wife. They never were actually married, although he was married 4 times. But she would cook him lavish meals. She would clean his house. She would dote on him. And before too long, she was pretty much completely brought into the fold.
Would she help scrub out the cavities of his forced slaves? And
yeah, pretty much. Well, she was pretty much completely brought in at some point. David even presented her with an 18-point instruction manual for how to abduct and rape and torture people, and how to keep them captive, and explained to her all the ins and outs of the toy box and stuff. And she was very gung-ho for all of it. So soon Hendy began to routinely help Ray pick targets, starting with an acquaintance. She said, I felt for Angela, because her and I were friends, Hendy said. I had partied with her a few times. So Hendy and Ray actually released their first shared victim, making her promise to keep the abduction a secret. So they abducted her friend Angela, I guess, tortured her for a while, and then they let her go, but they said, like, you can't tell nobody you was tortured by us and all this stuff happened. You got to just go.
I mean, someone's offering you that deal. It's like, we're either going to kill you or we're going to let you go. It's like, and if you, I mean, yeah, of course she's going to fucking accept.
But I'm going to let you, but I'm going to say, oh, yeah, for sure, I won't tell anybody, and then I'm going to walk straight into the police station and tell them everything that just happened to me.
I mean, yeah, that's
probably not a bad idea.
Probably the smartest thing to do.
But not what Angela did. Too scared, I guess, to do that.
Probably.
So, according to Hendy, while the two had a victim in their clutches, Ray would do most of the torturing while she stood by and watched. But that's, of course, her claim. There's parts of the tapes that make it sound like there was probably more going on than that.
I mean, you're not involved in a fucking torture scheme, and it's all like, I'm hands off.
I was more of like the hands off, watch it happen torturer.
I mean, I'm sure there's people that would do that for sure. I'm just saying that, like, I don't. It sounds like, you know, everyone in the story is like, it's like everyone shifts the blame over to the other person. Oh, they did it. I was just like, no, there was a gun on me the whole time. Don't torture, but I was too afraid.
So she said, I had no remorse at the time. It was like slow motion. I don't think I had any feeling one way or the other.
This bitch took a hit of that shit from that fucking Dread movie. She was just like, he's like, hey, I want you to be my bondage torture slave, but first take a two to this. And she was like, okay, I guess so. Everything was in slow motion. See, this is just everybody trying to save their own ass at this point.
Yes.
She was like, I had no
together.
feelings one way or the other. Like, it doesn't seem like you ended up in that situation.
You know what, though?
No strong feelings.
I get it now, though, TJ. I get it why this guy fucking walked, dude. It's because it's like a fucking intricate fucking TV show. There's like so many fucking subplots and different threads, and it's like, did he do it? But then she said that he did it, but then he said no, and then she said this,
dude,
and this other person, you know what she said? It's like, what the fuck?
Dude, you have no idea how much shit I just left out because I'm like too complicated.
Dude, if it was in like an HBO cop show and a bitch named Cindy Hendy from Seattle showed up and just immediately was like, yeah, I'm totally into like rape dungeon torture too, I'd be like, oh my God, what lazy writing. You know what I mean? But here
that's
it
why
is.
they say truth is stranger than fiction, because fiction has to be believable. Truth doesn't.
I guess so.
But on March 22nd, the jig was finally up for David and Jesse and Roy and Cindy.
What year is this now?
1999.
99. Yeah. Okay.
David and Cindy's latest victim, Cynthia Vigil, seen here, was able to escape her chains after the keys had been left carelessly close to her. David was at work, and Cindy tried to stop the girl from escaping, but was unsuccessful. So, wearing only a slave collar and chains, Cynthia Vigil escaped the toy box and sought help of a nearby homeowner who phoned the police. Soon, the entire property was swarming with FBI, and the contents of the toy box were meticulously cataloged. And the story that I just told you was unraveled piece by piece. As you can imagine, Cindy soon turned on David.
No,
I mean, at first, everyone...
wait a minute.
Yeah.
What?
Cindy
At first,
Hendy
everyone
flipped.
Yeah,
I
you
would have
wouldn't
said
believe it, huh?
anybody else in the conspiracy would have flipped, but not Cindy Hendy, dude. She was down from the get-go. You're kidding me. The shady bitch from Seattle named Cindy Hendy, the career criminal turned stoolie. Say it ain't so, bro.
Beyond belief.
So, yeah, at first they all kind of, stood together and shit and all that.
Solidarity. And then they start thinking about all the time they're going to do.
Well, Cindy was the first one to just break and flip. So
she does look like she would be the first one.
Dude, she fucking flipped after probably like a fucking day or two.
They
She
probably
just
offered to buy her a pack of cigarettes. That's probably what flipped her.
She got a pack of Marlboro Reds. Oh my God, let me tell you.
She gave them everything they needed. So despite this and all of the other evidence, David continued to maintain his innocence. He claimed that all of the women who had been brought to his toy box were willing participants who had consented to the activities he'd subjected them to.
And they only made it seem like that.
Right. It was all basically everything else was just part of an elaborate BDSM fantasy, and everyone understood what they were signing up for when they fucking did.
Oh, right, of course.
So
it's a prank, bro. Bro, it's a prank. Dude, I know I kidnapped you and tied you up and raped you, but bro, it's a prank.
It's
oh,
just a
okay.
prank, dude.
That's all.
So they
prank,
were able to finally get David to, confess that he'd done his crimes and all this shit.
I mean, obviously.
They were able to fucking get him to do it. Well, the reason they were able to do it was because the FBI threatened to throw the book at his daughter, Jessie. And he pretty much immediately folded at that point. In exchange for his daughter walking free, David agreed to plead guilty to all charges and accept the maximum sentence for his crimes.
Wow. So he took the hit for his daughter. So she could go out because she was younger. So she could still run. She could build. She knew she had the fucking blueprint of the toy box in her head. And he was like, I tell you what, man, you let her keep going out there and psycho drugging some crazy bitches.
Every toy maker.
Let her raise the next fucking generation of toy box fucking lords or whatever. The next Pinhead. Dude, and they took it.
Oh, yeah, they took it.
This chick, like, straight up participated in not only, like, recruiting these women, but, like, raping and torturing them and helped with all of that shit, and they'd let her go?
Well, let me break down all their fates for you. So Jessie Ray was sentenced to time served, which is 2.5 years, put on 5 years probation. She never cooperated with law enforcement and was defiant as she left jail. She basically was just flipping them the bird the whole time. She never fucking caved and tattletaled on her father. She fucking maintained the wall of silence. She remains free to this day.
Jeez.
Cindy Hendy was sentenced to 36 years in prison for her involvement, but only served about half before being released on parole in 2019. She is now a free woman as well.
Oh, no, man. I don't really think Cindy Hendy needs to be out there again.
No.
I'm not
and
sure.
You know what? They said that it's really bizarre that she was like not a well-behaved prisoner. She actually got in trouble in prison multiple times and like smuggled in drugs and stuff. So she was not like some model good behavior, you've really learned your lesson kind of thing.
How the fuck did she get out at halftime then? They must have been desperate for prison space or something.
State prisons. Was it a federal rap or was it a state rap?
I assume it was a state rap.
It must have been because federally there's no parole like this. So
is
like
rape a state rap?
It can be
rape, torture, kidnapping,
because like
etc.
Well, here's the thing: if it was like you can't get parole from federal prison, like you can get like clemency, you can get pardoned, but
Right.
so like and you get but like you can, they're like with the way like state prisons work, a lot of times people get life. They only do like 15 years. So like it depends on the state and the laws of the state. So she got 36 years with everything going in her favor. Yeah, she probably did half the time and got paroled. I mean, how old is she now? Like 55, 60 years old. At the point of this release,
yeah. I mean, she looks like she's in her 50s at least. Yeah,
the state doesn't want to pay all those fucking medical bills for these people. They just go like, "Yeah, look, you served 18 years.
Whatever, crazy rape, torture, dungeon bitch. Don't do it again. Okay,
you done learned your
Very
lesson.
bad.
Shame,
Look, the state's
shame,
already
shame.
naughty.
We know your name, and we're gonna be looking. You start another rape dungeon. We're gonna be looking. All right, get out of here, you scamp. I don't get it, but whatever. I mean, I'm not even a big like incarceration guy, but it seems like prisons were built for people like her, right? That like,
Yeah,
kidnap
exactly.
and rape women and fucking
torture people.
help this fucking crazy guy do it.
By the way, I didn't really put it in my document, but totally unrepentant. Basically, just blames everything on David. Says that she's just like a mindless puppet that had nothing to do with nothing.
She's brainwashed into it.
She's like, I never should have got suckered into his weird bondage shit. I never liked none of that.
You know, these people are just—it's the same shit. They're mad they got caught. Just say you're mad you got caught. I mean, you're already doing the fucking time. You're mad you got caught.
So this is Roy Yancey. He accepted a plea deal. He was released from prison in 2011. He is a free man today and is active on social media. I couldn't find it, but apparently he's got a Facebook and some other stuff.
Jeez.
Remember that time I murdered that person because someone told me with a gun on me? That was crazy.
He's probably responsible for at least 2 murders, and I think he only served about 11 years.
Huh.
Yep, wonderful. Man, I'm glad we live in a country where people like get 20 years for crack and fucking small amounts of fucking, in small like retail theft, but then a guy kills 2 people. It's like, well, you did 11 years. You learned your lesson.
I recently got out of prison. Oh, how long were you in? I served 11 years. Oh, man.
For what?
You learned your lesson, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, I was in this whole rape torture gang, and we would abduct women and rape and torture them and maybe murder them. I don't know. I murdered at least 2 people probably, but 11 years.
I mean, look, I paid my fucking debt to society.
Paid my debt, bitch.
Good thing you weren't smoking some weed or something, dude.
So though he was never convicted of murder and no victims were ever identified, it is believed that David Parker Ray is responsible for up to 60 deaths. I have no idea where they get that number from. I guess from his journals. It's also possible he's not responsible for a single fucking one. Ray was sentenced to 224 years in prison after being convicted of numerous offenses involving the abduction and sexual torture of 3 young women in his Elephant Butte Lake home. His first trial ended in a hung jury in Tierra Amarilla, New Mexico.
I mean, what does their dick size have to do with it, really?
I don't know. I don't know why they brought that up either, Paul. It's fucking crazy.
Okay, so yeah,
jury was hung.
Jury
Okay,
all had big dicks, it's like fuck, man. It's like everywhere a little dick guy goes, you know what I mean? It's rubbed in my face.
Yeah, it's crazy. His trial was then relocated to a small town where he had been raised decades before. He was convicted of his crimes against Angie Montano, and then admitted his crimes against Cynthia Vigil and another young woman. 8 months after being sentenced to 224 years in prison, David Ray Parker died of a heart attack.
Dude, let me tell you something. This dude is in his mind, is the toy maker, dude. Like, most people fucking go into, prison and know they're going facing 224 years, don't look fucking happy. And he really does look happy.
Well, I don't know when this picture was taken. I don't know if this is a picture of him being let off to jail for the first time.
It looks like it's
yeah, that's what it fucking looks like, dude. It's like
hung jury shit.
Jesse, you shall be the new toy maker. Carry forth my legacy, my child.
So what I find very weird, though, because when I fucking looked at this guy up, I was like, oh, yeah, the Toy Box Killer. He killed a bunch of people. But,
clear cut, definitive.
There's not one fucking example of a clear cut, he definitely murdered this person. It's just not there. And it seems really fucking crazily unlikely that in an area as population sparse as Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, and Elephant Butt, that he was abducting women all over the place, murdering them, and they were just going missing, and people were just like, eh.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people go missing every year in America, and even more people are just never reported missing and shit. So there's
a very remote place too, TJ.
I know, but I'm just saying, it seems pretty unlikely that even today the investigation is ongoing. They've never been able to pin a single fucking person on him definitively.
I mean, look, huge areas of desert, remote land. If he got rid of the bodies,
so. It was said that he dumped the bodies in some kind of lake. That lake has been dredged and searched and searched and dredged, and they've yet to find a single fucking body.
There'd be something in there if he dumped a body in the lake. It's likely that he just never killed anybody.
Yeah.
He even says in his tape at one point that he does not like to kill. He would prefer to not do that. It seemed like maybe he had done it before. It kind of had the tone of I'll kill if I have to. Because I guess he wanted that fear, but I don't know. It didn't really seem like that was really his thing. He was more into the torture aspect. So I don't know if this dude ever actually killed anybody. So I don't know if I have actually done an episode today about a serial killer, but I very well may have. It's the most likely thing they got him for as far as murder goes, at least at this point in the investigation, because as I said, it is ongoing with so many victims as yet unidentified. Is the girl, the Marie Parker girl who he supposedly said to kill, but even that's just a story told by a guy who's trying to mitigate his responsibility for the girl he killed.
What if his daughter was the killer, dude, and he just covered it all up?
Dude, this right here, dude, is that face when you spend your entire life running a fucking rape torture dungeon and know that you're about to die of a heart attack anyway when you get caught, and it doesn't matter.
Yep.
I also think it's
face.
The circumstances around his death are a little fucking weird too, because it wasn't like he just died on like a normal day in prison. It was like someone was coming there to question him. There was an investigator that was coming there from the state police to question him on some new evidence that had like come out, and they wanted him to get some information out of him. And before he could speak to that investigator, he died of a heart attack.
Huh.
I also think it's really weird that the first jury was a hung jury. I'm really curious what evidence was presented to them that gave them any doubt, because it seems like super clear cut from what has been presented publicly.
Well, this is the one that fucking fucks me up. They have this tape that he made that
right.
Yeah. They've got the rape dungeon. They've got the testimony of people that were involved and people that say that they were assaulted by him or whatever the fuck.
But they didn't have that definitive, as far as the murders, a definitive person where it's like, here's the person, they were killed, here's the evidence they were killed.
Yeah, there's no bodies for any fucking a victim's body has never been discovered. He's never been linked to someone who's died.
So what are the chances this dude evidence? Just built, like, maybe there really is only like one person that they did this to, or two. You know what I mean? And they let them both go, and he just like fantasized about doing it to a bunch of other people or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, the most innocent I could possibly make him in my mind, as far as like my narrative goes, would be like he had these fantasies and maybe he was doing some consensual BDSM stuff, but he had this non-consensual fantasy, and the more he got these people around him that kind of like were like, yeah, we should do it. They all kind of hyped each other up, because you know, it seems like actual evidence of his crimes never fucking seems to start until other people are involved. Like until Jesse is involved and Roy is involved and Cindy is involved. But it could just be that he was way more careful than any of them. And when he was on his own, he was just safer. You know, like maybe he was just a really, really fucking good at it. But then these other people who were more clumsy and like loose about it got fucking entangled in it. And then, you know,
this whole thing seems like, the more I look at it too, it seems unwieldy. Like the walls of those things are not thick.
Yeah. Well, he literally like insulated it with soundproof stuff. He fucking steel reinforced it. So that is a pretty good, big piece of evidence against him too, is the fact that he made this thing so difficult to fucking escape.
Right.
Like he went out of his way to make this, to reinforce.
But what if that's like part of the scene or whatever?
It doesn't really need to be.
See, that's the thing is, like, I'm not really heavy into BDSM or whatever, but I know that like BDSM scenes for some people can get like super involved.
Yeah, very elaborate
and super heavy sometimes too, where it's like, you know, a person that's not initiated into that shit that looks at that would think something non-consensual was going on or whatever. And it's like, you know, like it might have been like that makes sense to me. It makes sense to me that that's probably closer to the fucking truth than this dude like was some magician that made 60 people disappear. You know what I mean? With no physical evidence at all to time to any of it. It's like, it's one thing to say like, oh, he just dumped him in the desert. But I mean, I'm sure they looked in the fucking desert and shit. I'm sure.
I mean, they've looked everywhere, and you know, like obviously, like when this happened, they've looked into every missing person that fits the fucking profile.
Well, I mean, look at the other dude that, you know, supposedly killed on his orders. Like they caught him. So when there was like an actual body or some all these things lined up,
they never found her body either.
Oh, they never found her body?
No. So when Roy Yancey took investigators to where the body was, he's like, the body's
that's right.
here.
It was never found.
There was some canyon, and he went to where exactly where he thought the body was.
You talking about this lady here with the tattoo?
No, she escaped. She escaped.
Oh, she's the one that escaped.
I'm talking about her. Yeah, her. That's Marie Parker right there.
Or wait, no, this is Marie Parker.
Yeah, that's Marie Parker.
Yeah,
I think both of those are Marie Parker. Actually,
maybe
that one definitely is Marie Parker.
So he was tried and convicted based solely on a confession.
Yeah. Well, so when Cindy flipped, Cindy basically implicated Jesse and Roy in the murder of this girl. And when David took the plea deal and stuff, I guess that's when he spilled the beans about what he did in this instance. About it was David that made me killer, and Jesse held a gun at me to make me do it, and whatever else.
So I mean, if a lot of these bodies never turned up, I mean, they either had a method of disposing and breaking down the bodies, so you would just never find it, or it was just
some people have speculated that they were fed to catfish, because I guess David was like a cat fisherman, and the lake that he went to was filled with catfish, and I guess catfish will eat a body, but they don't eat the bones and shit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's like, that doesn't make much sense to me. It's like, I would think they're going to dissolve the body in some way.
But this has
they're just going to bury it so far and so remotely.
They've investigated all these.
You've watched enough forensic files, TJ, and probably too, Scotty, to know that like when you murder somebody or something, the trail of evidence is incredibly minute and like incredibly easy. Maybe not easy, but like investigators have become really, really good at finding
in a super high profile case like this with so many supposed victims and it's just crazy to me that to this day, there's not been a positive, like, hey, this is someone who was definitely murdered.
So wait a minute. You said the FBI was involved in this, right? The FBI was eventually what broke this up. So how did it go from being an FBI case to like a state case where somebody can get paroled?
I don't know.
See, this is what I'm talking about. This chick right here, she's the biggest question mark for me. Because she just comes out of fucking nowhere, lands in the middle of a fucking what she claims to be an elaborate rape murder, circle, and then like gets this sweetheart deal. If she was fucking up in prison, the only way she got out early is if they cut some kind of secret deal where they were like, look, the best we can do is this. You're going to get 36 years in public, and then we're going to let you out at about half. You will be paroled out when you've served half of your time. That's the best we can do. You know what I mean? But you got to give up everything. And so she probably made up a bunch of lies and bullshit. And you know what I mean? Because like how much of the story of the supposed like 60 people that he's killed or whatever comes from her?
Well, the thing about it that gives me a lot of doubts, too, is that I know that police... I mean, we remember the case of Henry Lee Lucas?
Yeah. Where they pin
one where they
just like pin everything
like
they could on him.
Crimes. Like we know that Marie Parker thing was like a big media thing, and there was a big manhunt for us. It's like maybe this is a real convenient way to fucking close that case. Like, oh yeah, they killed her because there's no body. Like, oh, we took her where the body was buried, but it's not there. Oh, he must have moved it. And by the way, he's dead now of a heart attack before he could talk to investigators.
Yeah, before he could ever mention any of it.
So, that's happening. I don't know. There's just a lot of things about the case that made me go like, I don't think the dude is innocent. I think he definitely did some fucked up shit, but I don't think he was a fucking serial killer, to be honest with you.
So I've got an alternative theory here.
Go ahead.
You put my paranoia hat on here. This dude was a recruiter for powerful people who have these fucking rape, torture fantasies. That's why he built it on a fucking trailer. He'd take this fucking trailer around, or maybe even just have them come to this secluded trailer in the middle of nowhere. And it was like a rich person's fucking, like, that's why he got off. Because the
trailer was right on his property, so it wasn't.
Well, that's what whatever. Then, like, it was, but I'm assuming it was secluded enough to where people could come and go, and it wasn't really like right.
He was in a town of 1,000 people.
It's an elephant butt. So, I mean, come on,
right? So that's what I'm saying.
In a small New Mexico.
This guy was used by the rich and powerful that want to do this type of shit. He was the go-to guy. He's like, hey, I've got a rape dungeon all set up, ready to go. Whatever you want to do, you can do. Bada bing. I won't talk.
We did have those reports from his daughter when she was 19 saying that he was selling girls over in Mexico. So
that's what I'm fucking talking about. Like these like, what if the reason why this all just kind of got like waxed over is the same reason why the Vegas shooter never gets covered or something? It's like as soon as the investigators started digging a little bit, they were like, well, we just got to make this go away because he's connected to this, and all the dominoes start falling, and we're in trouble. So it's just like, yeah, he did some stuff, Put him in jail. Oops, died of a heart attack. Whatever.
Killed 60 people, maybe. We don't know. There's no bodies. Anyway, the end.
Yep. That's a wrap.
That's
Could
all,
be, man.
folks.
Who the fuck knows, man? There could be a goddamn rape cabal. And like you said,
with these complicated stories like this, where we're never going to know the full truth, it's fun to speculate because you just But I don't know. I'm incredulous.
Imagine that there are rich and powerful people out there because, look, when it talks about Fortune 500 CEOs, there's a high incidence of sociopathy and psychopathy amongst those people.
Oh yeah,
right. And so let's say that carries over into their sexual interests to the extreme. Now they're millionaires, multi-hundred millionaires, you know what I mean? And they can kind of money's no object type of people. And there are probably people that want to push the limits of what is socially correct in other ways. I mean, we know people, rape people, abduct people, sexually traffic people, have people flown into fucking islands to have parties with powerful people that are underage and shit. We know all that shit's going on. It's right there in black and white. And so it's who is not to say that if that shit's going on, this kind of underground cabal of come on down to my fucking island or come on down to my ranch in New Mexico in the middle of a fucking tiny deserted town and rape live your fucking BDSM Dom fantasy to the ultimate. You know what I mean? You've got the money, I've got the fucking...
So I'll tell you something that kind of fucking plays into what you said, is that in the tape where he's doing the orientation for the... where he's reading the whole orientation list of this is what's going to happen to you and all this stuff.
Yeah.
He does talk about multiple people are going to be here doing stuff to you. There's going to be men, there's going to be women, there's going to be all kinds of people coming in.
See?
So
what if this dude was
very methodical? And he had a fucking manual of how to abduct people. So I mean, that's
they call his type of crime organized lust crime. And I gotta say, as far as organization goes, I mean, he was very organized. He had an orientation tape, for fuck's sake.
Yeah,
it might as well have been Muzak at the beginning of it.
Think about the orientation tape, though. I know well enough, if I know it, that could easily be part of a fucking elaborate BDSM scene.
Oh, yeah, it totally could.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm pretty sure that's the argument his legal defense team made. I didn't really look too deep into how the trial went, but I'd imagine that some kind of version of that case was probably presented to a jury. And it was convincing enough that at least one jury was split. So,
and then he ultimately did a plea deal.
Yeah, before another one could. Yeah, they didn't. That's true. They didn't want him going before another jury, really.
Well, the first one was basically a hung jury, so then it was declared a mistrial.
So then they had him confess to everything, basically.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird that I really am curious what was presented at that fucking trial that gave that fucking jury pause.
Dude, I think what happened was they probably made some kind of backroom deal like they did with Cindy Hendy, where it's just look, we're going to publicly give you this much, and then once shit is quieted down, we're going to kind of parole you out. You just got to keep quiet about everything. But they didn't trust...
he did it. His main thing was he got the bargaining chip for his daughter because they were like, we'll let your daughter go. She don't have to serve no more jail time. We'll let her out.
Well, maybe they were afraid that she was going to fucking squeal. See, this is what makes me think there's no fucking way, bro. If you're an accessory to multiple rapes and possibly multiple homicides and shit, as is being alleged, he got 200 some odd fucking years. They don't just let people walk. That's what makes me think that they knew something. This guy was some kind of fucking broker for this type of shit for executives and powerful people who have these kind of sadistic tendencies who want to fucking experience that ultimate thing but not have it pinned on them. Well, come on down to my fucking little ranch. You know what I mean? Take your private jet, fly into this fucking airport, say you're there for fucking R&R. Come on down. I've got a whole fucking dungeon. You can do whatever you want. You know what I mean? Or it could have just been part of some elaborate fucking BDSM scene that he was into with all, maybe his daughter was into it too. I ain't denying that he was an incestuous piece of shit or whatever. But
no one knows. I mean,
there's some interesting things about his past too.
There's so much about this story that's just unconfirmed and up for speculation and in the air. And it's for something that's so invested, when you have a torture box full of sex toys and an orientation tape for abductees and videotapes, hundreds of videotapes of women in this thing, but which, by the way, their identities meticulously not shown in the fucking videos. Like, it makes it seem like a pretty clear
to sell those things too.
Oh yeah, it's speculated, but none of those tapes. Like, that's another thing, is like, it's speculated that maybe he sold these tapes off. But I was not. I looked into it, trying to see
had them made for powerful people. Like, maybe there were powerful people that were like, dude, I don't want to be anywhere near this. But I want you to fucking get a girl that looks like this, rape her like this, film the whole thing.
Yeah.
Send that shit to me fucking secure, and I'll send you $1 million. And maybe they looked into his books and saw some names on it that they didn't even want to fucking deal with it. And they were just like, look, we're putting you away. That's it.
It's speculated that he might have sold the tapes, but none of them have ever like shown up. There's not been an instance of like, whoa, this is a copy of this is a David Parker Ray fucking tape that he made. This person he obviously sold it to this guy.
And the only way that I can fucking imagine that being true is if these tapes were fabulously expensive. Like, to the point of like your average fucking Joe fuck up who gets busted for coke, and whoopsie daisy, they found my David Parker Ray tape where he's raping somebody. It's like these tapes, if they ever existed, which, like, by this point, now that he's been busted, I guarantee you anybody that owned these tapes fucking threw them, broke them into tiny little pieces, burned all the film, got rid of it all. Nobody. But if anybody ever once had these tapes, the only reason why it makes sense to me that not one of them ever surfaced, even though the whole thing was obviously rigged to be filmed, like, is if he was selling it for a lot of money.
Record it?
And selling it to powerful people.
Why else record it? Because look, there's only two real good reasons to me to record it. It's the reason we just discussed, or it's like, I want to go review my crimes. And
here's another thing, though, too. Here's another thing you have to think about as well. He was part of the mainstream BDSM scene, and there probably were women who were in that fucking toy box consensually.
Sure,
probably, because he was part of a BDSM scene. But imagine if there was people in that box. So you have all these tapes. It's like, well, if it was just consensual stuff, why don't any of those people come forward? Well, maybe there's people who are just like, I don't want to come forward and be like, I want to come to the defense of this guy that's being accused of like kidnapping and murder and shit, and be like, yeah, I was there of my own volition. Because then all of a sudden, oh shit, the heat's on you now. So I don't know. It just seems like really fucking messy and complicated and convoluted and weird. But
well,
yeah, I definitely agree. I smelled fish about halfway through doing the research. I'm like, this doesn't fucking make sense.
It just seems like such a huge possible crime is being alleged here. You got the federal government involved. Like, they're pretty meticulous when it comes to shit like this. Like, typically,
and I remember the FBI fucking investigated him when his daughter was 19 and he was 46.
Right.
They showed up and investigated. And he's just like, yeah, I love murder and shit, and I love all this fucking crazy stuff. And they're just like, well, seems good. We got to go. So
yeah, he made a phone call, and the president probably called and said, lay off of him. This is the president. This is Bill Clinton.
This is whoever was president right at this time. I think it's Bill.
I think I'm going to need you to leave that guy down there in New Mexico alone. He's a family friend of me, and Hillary's very dear. All right. He's a little eccentric, but your investigation's over. Thank you very much. I'm like, all right, sir. Continue your little rape party.
Maybe that's how Epstein got started, dude. Or
yeah, you don't think it's plot? What if he is wrapped up in all that? What if the Epstein fucking shit rabbit hole goes way deeper? Because, like, look, Epstein's got fucking names in that book. Some of them have come out, some of them haven't. Like, it's fucking insane. So think about it. What if Epstein had like connections in the fucking human trafficking world and shit, where it was like, look, because like not everybody wants an underage girl or whatever the fuck. That's not everybody's fucking forte. Some people want a fucking BDSM party and shit. And so like if fucking like there's a powerful person that Epstein wants to schmooze with, And he goes like, well, you know, what kind of kink you into, man? We're all alone here. We're all fucking billionaires here. What do you like? You know what I mean? And the guy doesn't say like little girls. He says like, I don't know, big hardcore whips and chains and shit. What is like Epstein just go like, oh, shucks. I don't got nothing for that.
I gotta answer my friend David.
Yeah.
Over in New Mexico.
No, like he's going to have a guy. He'd be like, dude, I can get you that. Dude, you take a short little trip down to New Mexico. My homeboy David down there has got a crazy hookup. You just tell him what you want, man. Like, how implausible is it that, like, if it's not this guy, that something like that existed with Epstein's name on it? You know what I mean? That hasn't had the lid blown off.
Fairly plausible. I mean, obviously, you don't know.
Out, you know,
I'll tell you another story about this guy,
prostitutes and shit. Like,
let me tell you another story about David. This is another story about him from his early days that I decided not to put in my research, but it's interesting. Between serving in the army and becoming a mechanic, I guess at one point he was like kind of a hippie, and he was like kind of roving the countryside doing like the whole free love thing for a little while.
Yeah.
And so at one point he had this girlfriend who was pregnant, and they were staying with this other couple. And you know, she's like, yeah, I'm pregnant with David's baby and blah 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 and all this. And then, like a few days later, she's just gone. And the couple's like, "Where'd Lucy go?" or whatever. Her name wasn't Lucy, but what happened to Lucy? Where's she? Like David's like, "Oh, you know, she's a free spirit. She just decided she was gonna go elsewhere and do some other stuff." And they're just like, "That really seems odd. I don't think she would just leave like that." But
doesn't seem plausible.
I'm like, well, I guess we have to accept that story.
Yeah, dude. I think David just called in a favor and just, you know what I mean.
So yeah, but
dude, I'm convinced now that David and Epstein were buddies, dude.
Depstein.
I think they investigated this dude until they ran across one name, Jeffrey Epstein, and then they were like, "Halt this fucking investigate!" Nope.
If this guy was secretly making a shit ton of money, he was hiding it pretty well, because he did live in a pretty ramshackle trailer on a pretty fucking crappy.
I mean,
piece
how do you hide this
there.
shit? How do you know where he really lived? The motherfucker did his
true.
fucking. He did his fucking.
Maybe he had
dirt
some
out
kind
of
of fucking secret mansion somewhere or something.
Not?
Maybe
these fucking rich people live in cities nobody knows they're there and shit.
Well, they would say they did say he was always out of town for mechanic jobs and shit. So
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, he's out of town. He's only in town when Epstein sends him somebody that wants to fucking torture somebody to death or whatever the fuck. Then he's back wherever the fuck this rich fuck actually lived. Yeah, he just established residence there. Who's to know if he was actually ever in that house? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I guess he probably lived there at least some of the time, because I mean, that's where everyone who knew him.
Yeah, well, he's got set up his fucking torture shit.
Like he was known around the town.
He was there one day or 2 days a week, so people could see him. Howdy neighbor, and then fucking the rest of the week he's fucking off in Bermuda or some shit, living on Epstein's fucking island. Like, all right, Jeff, I need you to fly back into New Mexico. I got another client for you. God damn it, Jeff! I thought I was going to have 2 or 3 days this time. Sorry. You know how it is. You know how it is in the crazy rape and torture business. Who the fuck knows, dude? Yeah, this is a weird one, TJ.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was going to be super. I thought it was going to be super cut and dry, and I'd just be like, here's a crazy serial killer, and here's all his victims, and here's what he did and when, and that's crazy. But instead, it's like, something ain't adding up here. Something ain't clicking.
The more answers you gave me, the more questions I had. I don't feel like you solved the mystery for me at all.
No, I don't think so either. I think a lot of this remains totally up for fucking rampant speculation.
Epstein.
So there you go.
One in the chat for Epstein.
Deep bad pride. Deep bad pride. Deep bad pride.